I've never owned a bike before.
Dude, I love your bike.
So nice.
Who called the cops?
That lady that was out in front yard filming. If I keep riding wheelies, she's gonna have me towed.
What is up, Mini Moto fam? Back in the carport today, changing the oil on the Kawasaki Z125, doing a little extra maintenance on top of that. I know this seems like a kind of silly video, but let's face it, if you've never owned a bike before, and I was in this position last year, but if you've never owned a bike before, then you probably don't know how to change the oil in it. It's not exactly the same as changing the oil in a car. I mean, as far as the drain plug part goes, yeah, that's the same. You just unscrew the drain plug at the bottom, let all the oil drain out. But the oil filter is a little different than a car, so there's no shame in looking it up. I looked it up too. There was no videos on it at the time, but I looked it up the hard way and asked questions and looked at pictures. So I figured I'd make a short little video showing you exactly how to change your oil that I recommend that you use, and a couple other little things that you may not know that's pretty much specific to the Z125 itself. This is something that even a Grom owner wouldn't know. Now, for starters, a lot of people ask, what is the best oil to use? This is my opinion, and it's just my opinion, but personally, I have always used Royal Purple Max Cycle. Now, there's two reasons for this. It's not just because it's a high quality synthetic oil, but it also seems to aid with some of the transmission issues that Kawasaki's come from the factory with. Transmission issues that you only see with Kawasaki oil or other cheaper synthetic oils. I've heard a lot of people say that Mobil 1 is really good, and Mobil 1 is, you know, a great oil, and it's readily available. You can buy it at Walmart in most cases. Royal Purple, I actually have to order it on Amazon. You can get it at a local O'Reilly's, but they have to order it, and then it costs like 17 bucks after they order it, whereas I can get it on Amazon Prime for $15.75 shipped. So I just always order it on Amazon myself personally. One of the great things about these bikes is they only take 1 quart of oil, so it's just 15 bucks, which is a lot for a single quart of oil. But a lot of the transmission issues, especially like when you roll up to a red light and you come to a complete stop, realize that you didn't downshift. Like you're still in fourth, the light's about to turn green, and you got to shift down to first real quick. You're going to run into some clunky little issues there, and I'm sure most of you already know exactly what I'm talking about if you've had to deal with this before. But ever since I switched to Royal Purple, that issue went away entirely. The transmission shifts like fucking butter. So, I mean, I've considered like trying Mobil 1, but I mean, you know, if it works, why fix it? Now, as I was saying earlier about how, well, this is something that even a Grom owner wouldn't know, is something you really want to have whenever you go to change your oil, even on the first oil change, is this little O-ring. Well, it's an oil filter gasket, technically, but it's basically just an O-ring. You can order these O-rings from your dealership, or there's a couple places online. Amazon has them. They're $11 shipped. They're expensive for no reason. Now, I'm working on a deal. I'm doing a little shopping around, so pretty soon in the near future, you'll be able to go to heliquip.com or minimotoworks.com, same website. And I plan on having these in stock, and to where, like, instead of paying $11 to have one of them shipped to you, you can get like 3 or maybe 5 of them at one time for that same exact price. Well, I'm going to do them for $10 of free shipping. It's going to be a minimum of 3, maybe 5. I don't know. It just depends on what I can get them for. But I'm still working on that, so check back with me. But this is something that you definitely need to have, because if it fails, it's going to fail on reinstall. It's not going to fail while you're riding. It's not going to fail after the oil change. It's going to fail during the oil change. So let's just get into it. So you want to start out by, of course, removing the front cowl. It's just 4 Allen bolts, 2 on each side. You just remove those. A couple of them are a little bit different size, so just space them out below the bike so you can kind of recognize where they go back, you know, so that it all fits back together correctly. Then, of course, you get underneath the bike. You don't necessarily have to have a stand for this. It's pretty easy to access once you pull that cowl off. And this part is the normal part. It's just like your average car or lawnmower. You know, you just pop out the little drain plug at the bottom, let all the oil drain out, put the plug back in, you know, and that part's done, just like a car. I do, however, recommend getting a magnetic oil drain plug. These things are known, especially if your bike is new, these things are known for releasing some metal shavings during their break-in period. It's completely normal, but you definitely want to have something to catch those shavings. You don't want them getting, you know, stuck all up in the motor on the inside. You want something to catch them so you can just wipe them off with a rag. And I've had to do it a couple of times. It hasn't been bad the last couple of oil changes, but the first couple there was a little bit there. Now, of course, as we all know, that's the easy part. Now we get to the part that everybody wants to know about, and that is, how do you change the oil filter? It's just got these two 8mm bolts that are diagonal from one another that are holding the cap on. The cap also has a spring in the center, so it is going to have some spring to it. I would suggest not pulling them both out all at once. I would loosen one and then loosen the other, let all of the oil drain out, and then take them off completely. And just be careful, because that little spring, it's not attached. It could come off. It could potentially fall in your oil bin, and then you'll be digging in there and getting oil all over you. And if you've never owned a bike before, and especially if you've always used conventional oil, synthetic oil, like, it sticks to your hand. Like, your hand is going to be permalubed for the rest of the day. So as little of it as you can touch as possible is better. Now, in this particular situation, I knew that my O-ring was probably wore out, and went ahead and ordered one before I even decided to make this video or do this oil change. I had changed the oil a couple of times, and I had a pretty good idea that it was going to have to be replaced based on what I'd seen and read and heard from other users. The number one way of telling whether or not your O-ring is bad is whether or not it'll fit back down in that notch. It's got that little ring there, and it's supposed to fit in there flush. Now, if you try to put it in there and it won't go in all the way, or it seems like it's sagging a little bit or hanging out a little bit, it's done. It's time to be replaced. But I tried to force this one in just to see if I could make it work, just so I could show you what happens when you do that, which is it leaks oil, as I'll show you here. Now, always when you install all of these parts, just like you would in a car, you leave the cowl off, you turn the bike on, you let it idle. It's not going to hurt it. If it does leak, it's only going to leak a few drops. So your best measure is to take a clean container, preferably a brand new plastic container. You set it underneath, and then whatever leaks out will leak into that container. And then if you have the problem that I'm about to have, you can just drain what little oil will come out and then pour it back in when you're done. A lot of people say that's probably not the best practice, and I don't necessarily recommend it, but if you've only got 1 quart of oil, you've only got 1 quart of oil, right? So as you can see here, the oil is leaking. The O-ring obviously didn't hold up, so I had to pull it back out. After removing it, as you can see, it's broken in half. It split it. It didn't fit down in the groove properly, so whenever I clamped those 2 screws down, it just ripped it in half. So we just take it back out, and the filter should stay up in there. You shouldn't have to mess with the filter. Just take the cover off, get your new O-ring, place it inside, and it should fit in there perfectly. Like, you shouldn't have to really force it. It should fit in there perfectly and snug to where when you bolt it back up, it's not going to get pinched. And that's pretty much that. You just reassemble it. Your oil change is done. It's really simple. It's just good to know exactly how to do it before you do it. I get that. I looked it up too. I totally understand. Don't feel bad. Share this video with your friends. Now, while I'm changing the oil, I wanted to go ahead and adjust my chain. It was a little loose. And of course, in the process, I want to clean it and lube it up. The factory owner's manual and other bike owners will tell you, put it up on a stand, put it in neutral, get your cleaner out, and just rotate the wheel with your hand and spray the cleaner on, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm too lazy for that. So I set it up on my stand kind of sideways, and I'm going to tell you, I don't necessarily recommend anybody do this. It is possible it could fall off the stand and have a complete and total disaster. But like I said, I'm lazy and I have this motto where, you know, work smarter, not harder. So I put it up on the stand, put it in first gear, let the clutch out, let the bike do the wheel turning for me. Now, just like the Royal Purple, I have a recommendation on chain cleaner and chain lube as well, which is Motul. I use the Motul MC Chain Clean. You just spray it on there while the wheel's turning or while you're turning it, however safe you want to be about it. And then once you get it good and sprayed on there, you just take a water hose and spray it off. So this is obviously something you want to do like further down your driveway, or you don't want a bunch of fluids, you know, seeping around and whatnot. But you just spray it off and it comes really clean. Like, you don't have to scrub. I mean, you can scrub it down and make it look nice and shiny if you feel like you need to. I don't, but you can. And then you move on to the lube, which is also Motul. I personally like the off-road lube because we do a little off-road. We do a little trail riding here and there. And we live in Texas where there's a bunch of clay and stuff, and that stuff's really hard, you know, on the moving parts of your chain. So I use the off-road stuff, but from what I've been told, the regular Motul works really well as well. And that's pretty much it. You're ready to ride. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you in the next install review tutorial video right here on Not a Grom. Peace.